In most states, for a written contract, it's what, somewhere between 3 and 6 years?
Yeah.
So how is this even legal?
Okay, this brings us to a really critical legal distinction. It's in personam versus in rem liability.
Okay, let's break that down. In
Okay.
personam, that means against the person.
Correct. That's your personal obligation to pay the money. If the statute of limitations has passed, or if you went through a Chapter 7 bankruptcy and discharged your debts, your in personam liability is probably gone.
So they can't sue me, the individual.
They can't garnish your wages or drain your bank account. That's true.
But there's always a but. The mortgage wasn't just a promise to pay. It was a secured lien on the property.
And that is the in rem liability against the thing. The mortgage is a lien that is physically, legally attached to the property itself. And in many, many states, that lien survives even if the personal debt is wiped out.
So the debt is dead for you, but the security interest is alive and well on the house.
Exactly. They can't sue you for the cash, but they can say, we still have a legal claim on this property and we are going to foreclose to satisfy it.
That is a nuance that traps so many people. You could have a bankruptcy discharge paper from 2012 that says debt discharge, and you think you're totally in the clear.
But unless your lawyer filed a specific motion to strip the lien from the title during the bankruptcy, that lien is still there.
Now, this isn't a total Wild West, though. There are some regulatory bodies stepping in. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, the CFPB, they issued some guidance on this in 2023, right?
He did. The CFPB clarified that under the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, the FDCPA threatening to sue on a time-barred debt is a violation. And some states have what's called a statute of repose, which basically says if you can't enforce the debt, you can't enforce the lien either.
So your geography matters.
A lot.
Immensely. In some states, when that statute of limitations expires, the lien is extinguished. It's gone. In others, it's not. And legal experts like Andrea Bob Stark, they note that even if the lien is technically valid, demanding $400,000 on a $95,000 loan after a decade of silence, that could be argued as an unfair trade practice.
Which brings us to the really actionable part of this deep dive, because I know people are listening right now, they're doing the mental math thinking, wait, did I have a second loan back in 2006? What happened to it? And the first instinct is to just pick up the phone and call the bank to check. And the experts in this report, specifically a guy named Don Daniel, are very, very clear about this. Do not make that call.
That seems so counterintuitive. You just want to clear things up. Why is calling them a mistake?
Because you could accidentally toll or restart the statute of limitations. In many states, simply acknowledging the debt, making a verbal promise to pay, or even making one tiny payment of, say, $5 can reset that clock back to zero.
You essentially breathe life back into that in personam liability that was dead.
You do. And just on a practical level, you are flagging yourself in their system. You're raising your hand and shouting, hi, I'm over here, I'm worried about this, and I probably have money. You go from the dormant pile straight to the active target pile.
Okay, so if you can't call the bank, how do you find out if you have a zombie lurking on your title? We need like a silent audit strategy.
The answer is in public records. You don't need the bank. You need the county recorder's office.
It's all public information.
All of it. You can go to the county clerk or recorder's website, most are online now, and search your own property address. You're looking for the chain of title. You'll see the deed of trust or mortgage from when you first bought the house.
Okay, so I find the original loan from 2006. What am I looking for next?
You're looking for a second document. It's usually called a reconveyance or a release of lien or a satisfaction of mortgage.
And if that document isn't there?
If you see the original deed of trust for that second loan, but you don't see a corresponding reconveyance that was recorded later, that lien is almost certainly still active on your title. It's just sitting there, open.
That is the smoking gun. All right, let's flip it. What if you have received the letter, the zombie is at your door?
Then the strategy does a complete 180. Silence is no longer your friend. If you get a notice of intent to foreclose or any collection letter, you have to act immediately.
Because there are strict deadlines on those things.
Yes. And under the FDCPA, you have the right to request validation of the debt. You should send a formal letter certified mail, get that return receipt, disputing the debt and demanding they prove that they actually own it and that the amount is correct.
And given how many times these debts get sold, from the original bank to some bundler to a hedge fund, the paperwork can be a real mess, right?
Oh, it's often a total mess. They might not even have the original note with your signature on it. They might have miscalculated the interest. Auditing their numbers is your first real line of defense.
But this does not sound like a do-it-yourself project.
No. Absolutely not. If you are at the foreclosure threat stage, you need a professional. A HUD-approved housing counselor is a great free place to start, but you almost certainly need an attorney who specializes in consumer protection or real estate law. They can figure out if the collector is breaking any rules.
It's empowering to know that the letter itself isn't the final word. It's an opening bid, maybe even a bluff.
Often it is a bluff. They are banking on you panicking and just writing a check. But if you know the difference between in personam and in rem, if you know the statute of limitations for your state, you can actually fight back.
I want to zoom out for a second.
Mm.
We've been talking about the fallout from the 2008 crisis. But when you look at the market today, are we setting ourselves up for this all over again?
That is the big concern. I mean, look at the last 3 years. Home equity went through the roof. And what did people do? They took out ELOCs and second mortgages at a record pace.
To fund renovations, consolidate other debt.
Exactly. And while the market is fine now, markets are cyclical. They always are. If we see a correction, if prices dip and those new borrowers go underwater on those new loans, we're just setting the stage for the next generation of zombies.
So in 2040, we could be doing a deep dive about these zombie mortgages of the pandemic era.
It's entirely possible. The basic incentives for lenders to sell off bad debt instead of resolving it, they haven't really changed at all.
It's a pretty sobering reminder that in finance, nothing ever really disappears. It just changes hands.
And changes price.
So let's just recap the battle plan here. First, understand the source. These are old second mortgages from the bubble that went quiet because they were underwater, and now they're back because algorithms can see your new home equity.
Second, understand the threat. It's that in-rem land on your house that they are using as leverage, and it's often bloated with years of massive interest.
Third, the strategy. If you just suspect a zombie, do a silent audit at the county recorder's office. Look for that reconveyance. Do not call the bank. Do not wake it up.
And finally, if they contact you, then you act. You verify, you dispute, and you get legal help. Don't just assume the debt is valid because it's on an official-looking letterhead.
It really just hammers home the importance of keeping your own financial records. If you pay off a loan, you need to save that release of lend. If you go through a bankruptcy, those discharge papers should be in a fireproof safe forever.
Absolutely, because in this system, the burden of proof is often on you to prove that the ghost is actually dead.
I want to leave you with one final thought. We talk a lot about financial responsibility as a duty for consumers, but we've just described a system where an institution can legally ignore you for 15 years, wait for you to rebuild your life, and then use an algorithm to target you the moment you become financially stable again. It really makes you question, is the distressed debt market just providing liquidity, or is it, in effect, penalizing recovery?
It is a very fine line between asset recovery and predatory opportunism. And right now, the zombies are walking that line.
Keep your records safe, stay vigilant, and don't poke the bear. Thanks for listening to this deep dive.
Stay informed.